Hello, tradies. Welcome to your segment. Just quickly, it's Mitch's segment as well, brought to you by 7-Eleven's Lunch on the Go menu. Do you still get stopped for just quickly?
Yes.
Yep. Did you get a few at the G when you were taking selfies?
More people talk about the pod than anything else.
It is true. It's a very good point.
Part of the tradies community.
We've got 5 today. We'll start with Jared.
Hey lads, just quickly, wanted to hear your thoughts on how maybe Melbourne's list management might have reacted to the 10-goal loss to North over the weekend, contributed by a couple goals from Jack Darling himself. And if Melbourne should be, thinking about throwing the hat in the ring a bit more aggressively to acquire some of these guys that might be a bit past their prime, but can still provide that, target in the forward line to kick to, which they clearly desperately need, as shown by the scoreboard on the weekend. Cheers, lads.
Great point, Jared.
Jared's message could have been 2025, it could have been 2024, it could have been 2023, it could have been 2022.
When did Ben Brown retire? Halfway through 22? Was it after?
No, yeah, it was only last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he play games last year?
I think he retired after David Cunningham.
By the way, I can't find it on Google either. I'm absolutely positive he signed a 4 or 5 year contract.
Oh, now it's 4.
Yeah, I've come back.
It'll be 3 by the time we get to the air raid.
I've come back here. I'm positive. I'm going to find it. In fact, I've got old text messages from the bloke who gave him the contract. I do. I'm going to find it. I'll let Mitch answer this one because I've been pretty adamant about my view on the Ds.
Yeah. Look, this is air raid territory in terms of hardcore footy stuff. But I don't think Wayne Carey or Tony Lockett could have kicked many goals in that forward line on the weekend. It all comes down to the ball use and the...
No, that's true. But I think to Jared's point, they need a focal point. Like Ben Brown wasn't a world beater, but he was a focal point that was able to bring the ball to ground.
Yeah.
They needed that on Combin on the weekend to bring the ball to ground.
So we should we have been talking about Jack Darling in the Melbourne conversation? Is that what we're...
No,
not
Jack Darling's bad example, but that type. Yeah.
I'm trying to think around the competition. Jack Gunson, I thought Melbourne should have had a crack at him when Brisbane went
Tex
for him.
was the one they had a crack at a couple of years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he said no.
Yeah.
And re-signed. That sort of player.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they should have been much more open to the Harry Mackay, Christian Petrarca stuff last year.
Mm.
Having said that, Petrarca looked quite good when he went forward, as he tends to.
Yeah, I think Melbourne's forward line in time, Van Rooyen, Turner, these sort of guys will get there. Jefferson's, they put a lot of time in.
Not sure about JVR.
But not now. They're still a few years away. And that's not helping them win games of footy in 2025, is it?
Thank you, Jared. Scott.
Hey, boys, just quickly. I was thinking about this just the other day. Obviously, this year, the TV networks have saturated the market with footy shows, and that's all good and well. But every show is kind of similar to one another in some aspect.
Oh.
But somehow in all of this, we don't have a proper replacement for that TV show back in the day called Future Stars that was on Channel 9, if you can remember it. That was easily one of the best footy shows going around. It focused on the next wave of AFL talent. And I'm just surprised that there's been no real replacement for this. Just wanted to get your thoughts.
It's a great question.
Wasn't expecting that from Scott.
Future Stars was before its time.
Was before its time, it's true.
It's a good point though, because it was existing 10 years ago. Why is it we not got something like that now?
Yeah, particularly at a time where there's never been more interest in the kids that haven't been drafted yet.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a good point.
Well produced show, Future Stars, back in the day.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who produced it?
Me. Oh, sorry.
Let's just relive that. Me. Yep.
I was trying to think of a way around that, but yeah.
Well
for
done.
2 or 3 years. Nathan Brown hosted it for a bit. Hutchie hosted it for a bit. Kevin Sheehan, Terry Wallace.
Do you know what I witnessed last night as I was prepping for Classified? So I had the agenda setters on, was watching them set the agenda, and in the middle of the show, they throw to a sports bet ad. Guess who's hosting it?
Brownie.
Nathan Brown, Channel 9's Nathan Brown.
National.
Was doing a segment on Channel 7. It was extraordinary.
Yep. It's a sports bet deal.
I'm aware of that. Thank you. I am aware. But still, I'm surprised that that's been allowed to happen. Anyway, well done to Nash.
But yes, I do like that point. I think...
Yeah, maybe someone will recreate it.
I'd love to see Saturday or Sunday mornings a few of these under 18 games get shown. in 9 a.m. What else is being aired on those times on Fox?
Something that's not football, preferably.
No, but on Fox.
Yeah,
Footy.
okay. I don't think we need any more football. Richard.
Hey boys, just quickly. I'm sending this a day after Essendon lost to the Crows by 61 points, despite Zach Merritt having 36 touches and 4 goals. And as an Essendon fan, it's the first time that I've probably thought that for his own sake, Zach Merritt needs to get out of there because, if he stays, he'll win 4, maybe 5 All-Australian jackets. He'll have won God knows how many BNFs, but he won't get a sniff of any real success with the club, I don't think. So I guess my question comes in 2 parts. The first is, other than Geelong, which, every player is connected to, what team do you think he could viably go to? So, who could afford him and where would he actually move? And secondly, how much do you think the lack of success would sort of weigh on his mind? Because he probably lives where he wants to live, in the state he wants to live, and he'd be making, a great salary. But do you reckon the lack of success that Essendon have will really push him over the edge and he'll want out at some stage?
Brilliant question.
Great question, Richard.
We touched on this a couple of weeks ago. 2021, he has offers elsewhere, and by his own admission, sits back and assesses the landscape, where the footy club's going. At that time, Ben Rutten was his coach, and in June, he re-signs on a 6-year deal. Until
Carlton was the big one he could have gone to, right?
Right.
That was,
I think you've been all over
He
that.
sat down with Paddy Cripps and
Yeah.
he was very much considering a move to Carlton, which may have changed the fortunes of both club and player at that point. Like you add Zach Merritt to Carlton at the end of 21. Sorry, go on.
Could you see him leaving now?
Now? Probably not. I think it's almost too far gone. I think it's almost too far gone. He's very close with Brad Scott.
He's been sold a pup, though, in what the club has promised him, that we were on the right track. And
Yeah, he has been. Yeah. Not the first player to have been sold a pup and won't be the last. The thing about Zach is that he's always been so honest about him striving for personal and team success. And he's always been very honest about how the lack of team success has impacted him. I'm sure he and his wife had a good look at the St Kilda offer. Had the St Kilda offer been from a club that was, closer to a premiership, would he have taken it? Perhaps. Now it just feels like, what's he got left on his deal, Mitch? How many years he got left?
well, he's signed until 27, so he's got 26 and 27 after this to run.
I can't see him leaving. I mean, stranger things have happened, but I couldn't see him leaving.
Bont's out of contract, though, and we're talking again, I can't see him leaving either, but wouldn't rule it out.
No, and as to Richard's point, the Cats always get linked with good players, and they had a crack at Clayton Oliver last year. Could they have a crack at Zach Merritt if they finish bottom 4 potentially? Thanks, Richard. Very insightful question from Richard to Rich.
Hey boys, just quickly, just wanted to touch on your favourite new team, the Tassie Devils. Just want to get a quick update when you think the stadium will be done.
I'm getting a coffee.
And also wanted to see who you think is going to benefit the most from them getting the concessions in the draft over the next few years. I feel like Hawthorn, North Melbourne and Richmond are probably in a good spot right now. And also want to see who's going to suffer the most by all the concessions going to Tassie with their list builds over the next few years. Love the pod. Cheers, boys.
I do actually have an update for the stadium.
You've been holding it off?
Yep.
Been waiting for Rich's question.
Mm-hmm. Here's the update. And that was the update.
No, that was dead air. Yep. Did you want Link to put some crickets in the post edit?
No, that was the update. The update is there's no update. It's the slowest process to a stadium I've ever seen.
Where's your nearest to the pin?
I think I said 2034, didn't I?
Oh, fuck.
Why? I'm not laughing.
They'll be in there by 2034.
Will they?
I'm pretty confident.
The longer this goes on, the less confident I am about a stadium happening. So, for all our listeners who, A, have lots of time on their hands, and B, care enough, you can actually go, if you just Google Macquarie Point Stadium, You can go to the website, and there's about 1,000 documents on the website of all the different things that they've got to tick off and all the issues that they have currently found. There's a lot. And so the timeline is, I'm sure people are falling asleep listening to this, but I'm weirdly interested.
No, it's a weird fetish of mine.
Yeah, same. I find myself at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just like, wait, yeah, no, seriously.
No, I'm not that deep.
Oh no, I'm deep into it. What was I saying? The timeline is, I think it's prelim final week this year.
Is the POS, the project of state significance?
Yep. Which is essentially, for anyone listening, is, hey, we're thinking about building a stadium. Go away and have a look at if it's viable, and then by this date, come back to us with a submission as to whether you think it is or not, right? And so then it will go, that will all be ticked off. Oh yeah, there's some issues, but that's fine. And then it needs to go to Parliament, where it needs to pass through both the upper and the lower house. I know this is getting very, very boring. And then after all of that, they sit there and they go, right, let's build it. And then the real issues will start. Because, guaranteed they'll dig something up and they'll be like, oh shit, I didn't realise this was here. Like, they've got to move sewerage pipes and outflows, and yeah.
And to the other part of the question, you don't want to be stuck between 8th to 14th when the Tassie Devils come in, because your picks are just going to get pushed back.
Yes.
Hawthorn, when they went through their dynasty of 13 to 15, they capitalised the fact that they were good. They were able to attack free agency. And the clubs that were stuck in the middle at that point, their picks just got pushed right back to the 20s and 30s.
You're saying before
the Suns and
Gold Coast GWS.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the crap clubs then couldn't improve as quickly because all their good picks were getting sucked up by the Giants and Suns.
And on Tassie, I don't get weighed down by this because there's so much detail, but on Tassie, Andrew Dillon did a recent chat with Damien Barrett on AFL.com, and I know he said similar things before, but it was interesting what Damo got out of him about him saying, no, we absolutely want Tasmania to be competitive from season one.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to force them to trade some of their high-end picks. But it's about how you convince the players. Like, I'm sure there'll be clubs out there being like, oh, you're willing to give us pick 3 for player XYZ?
Yeah.
Well, that's appealing to us because we think he's worth pick 20.
Yeah.
But it's convincing said player who's got 3 years left on his deal. I was actually talking to research assistant Dan about this during the week. Like, are they better off trying to get 8 B+ graders rather than impossibly trying to convince 4 absolute A graders to come over? Do you know what I mean? Are they better off just getting lots of good kids, 8 B+ graders? And when I say B+ graders, the guys that you're still going to have to pay good money to, but are role players, like your Perrymans and your Cummings and your Neil Bullens and these guys, get lots of them in, hopefully land, I know these are bad examples, right? But hopefully land a Harley Reid and a McKercher.
Yep.
I'm just throwing those names out there. But I think it's convincing the A graders that could go anywhere. Like, how are you going to convince Harley Reid to come to and live in Hobart when he could go live in Toorak?
Yep.
Tough sell.
You almost need to look at the Hawthorn model, and we've discussed this on the time. You need relationships with these players. The Jared Roughhead role. Go and sit down with these guys. Sam Mitchell, hands-on, going to meet these players. Are we past the days of the analytics and the data? You need these people in your footy club that have relationships across the industry that can go and convince these guys to sit down to them. And the point around the market, they're going to live in a different market. A bit like the Suns last year. They overpaid for Rioli, but they just had to go and do it. They're going to the Devils are going to have to overpay for these guys.
Yeah. And also, again, I'm not trying to be a smart ass about this, but when you're selling the dream to these players and the players say, well, where are we playing our home games?
Yeah, that's my biggest.
Well, that's an interesting point, Mitch. Look, we're not absolutely positive about the stadium right now. So for at least year 1 and 2, you're probably going to have to drive. If you're living in Sandy Bay in Hobart, every second home game, you're probably going to have to drive 3 hours north on a 2-lane bumpy highway up to Launceston. And if it's a Friday night game, you're probably driving home at 11. You'll probably get home at 2. But, it's only every 3 or 4 weeks. But so the stadium's definitely getting built? We think so.
Yeah, and what does that mean for time slots?
Tough sell.
How many Launceston and Belrive games are you putting on Thursday and Friday nights compared to the new stadium? Players want to play in the prime time slots.
Although I was thinking about Tim Payne. Remember last year
this conversation will get a run on their show.
I was thinking about Tim Payne because I was looking at the Launceston forecast for this week because they're playing Saturday night game against the Giants. I think the Hawks have only ever played one other night game in Tasmania. So it's rare that they put... Anyway, the forecast for Launceston this week, 25 and sunny every day.
Beautiful.
Extraordinary. Absolute scenes down there.
March. It's more of a March thing than July.
I see. Okay, thanks, Rich, for opening up that can of worms.
We got
shit. Nick.
That was just Longley.
Oh, it was bad.
Well, the opposite of just quickly.
That was bad. Nick, finish us off.
Hey, lads. Just quickly. One for Sam. Mate, where have the movie references gone?
Oh, good point.
You used to be the Martin Scorsese of footy media, and now it's like you've gone full Michael Bay. Big takes, but no depth. Any chance we could get a segment where you link current footy topics to film? I need to hear what movie best sums up the Eagles' rebuild, because right now it's feeling very Titanic. Cheers, boys.
Oh,
So, Nick, look.
that is great. Have you got too much on your plate? You can't watch movies as much.
So, a couple of things. Firstly, Nick, you're absolutely right. I've dropped the ball with the movie references. And I promise you for the next month, I will come back strong on tradies with movie references. Secondly, since I now have an actual job writing for a newspaper and I don't have to worry just about doing 1 hour of radio a day, I have had less time to watch movies. And thirdly, going from Scorsese to Bay that stings.
Can you give me a footy comparison?
Well, it's like going from Bontempelli to Carlton's Daisy Thomas.
Okay, I get it.
You understand? Like Daisy Thomas, big name, great player at Collingwood, but then ended up, not being quite the player we hoped. Michael Bay, by the way, like I know he gets a lot of shit, but he's still.
Has he got a movie that I'd recognise?
He did all the Transformer movies.
I haven't watched a minute of any of them.
You haven't seen a minute of any of the Transformer movies?
Nope.
It's insane.
But that shouldn't shock you.
Like what? How is that possible?
I've got other things going on in my life.
Do you know who's in any of the Transformer movies?
Legitimately, no.
Do you know the female lead?
She's pretty. If you tell me, I'd know.
Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so anyone that's ever seen a movie ever knows about like the first half an hour of the first Transformer movies and Megan Fox. It was basically like any 16-year-old boy was just like, holy shit, who is that? Shia LaBeouf, mate.
Instead of watching Transformers, I'm up at 1 a.m. reading the documents for the Macquarie Point Stadium.
That is very good stuff. I can't wait to go home and read more of that. It's been a weird, just quickly, one of the weirder ones, brought to you by Mitch's 7-Eleven lunch on the go menu. We'll see you next week.